The images, of course, extremely moving, the situation dramatic as one could ever imagine. Let's bring in someone who knows the church in question and has visited the Gaza Strip, Canon Mark Madden, who is from the Archdiocese of Liverpool, visiting the Middle East often in the work of the Pope. Father Mark, thank you for joining us. And I'll just reveal to everybody here that you and I are friends. Our families come from the same part of Liverpool. So that's all out in the open so people know that, and I think they should. But you're here to tell us about what you've seen in Gaza and give us your reaction to what has happened. So, Father Mark, tell us about the place that now has been destroyed by an Israeli bomb.
Sure. Good evening, Mark. It's good to speak to you. It's just a very, very tragic day today. As you said, I know Gaza very well. I've visited many, many times. I know the Christian community there. The community is tiny compared to the overall population of Gaza. The Christian community is much less than 1,000. For the Catholic Church especially, we're less than 100 people, much less than 100 people. And since the start of the war in 2023, the Catholic compound has been home to around 500-600 people. And so something like today will hit them terribly because they're all like family. So losing this today isn't the only deaths that they've had. There was if you remember, there was an attack on the church just before Christmas in 2023, where a mother and a daughter were killed. So it's not the first time, but it will hit them extremely hard. And especially, I think what also makes it raw is the Father Gabriel, who is a very good friend of mine, was also injured. Thank God he's okay. But it's tragic. It's unnecessary, and we just wait and see what the IDF say in a report that is expected.
As you're speaking to us, Father Mark, we're seeing the images coming from the scene, and it is very distressing to see. But this is another episode in a whole sequence of distressing episodes coming out of the Gaza Strip. The fact that a church gets hit in this way, I mean, clearly you've said in a quite balanced way, we're waiting for the report from the Israeli military, but the Pope calling for immediate ceasefire, I imagine you fully back what he is saying.
Yeah, it needs to stop for everybody's sake. It just needs to stop, and the necessary aid needs to go in immediately. I speak to Father Gabriel on a very, very regular basis every few days, and he came over to England just about 18 months ago, and so he's a man of deep faith, a man that you can trust. And the reports that he is constantly giving me, there is no aid going in. Certainly the Catholic Church, the Christian community there is, I guess, more luckier than most, because they seem to get a little bit more aid into them. But I have to say that certainly without the Christian Church in Gaza would be more hell than it is already, because any aid that they receive, obviously it goes to their own people, but a lot of that aid goes to their local neighbours. So they're not only caring for themselves, they're caring for others, and so it does need to stop. And governments, I get very angry with governments, especially our British government, that all they seem to talk about is a two-state solution and many other things. But I've never seen action. And I think hopefully, action does speak louder than words. And, it is time for governments really to do everything they possibly can to stop this. It's not just the Gazans who are suffering. People on the West Bank especially are suffering. We're dealing with another situation at the moment in a West Bank village called Taibeh, which is important for the French. And they're constantly, even today, being attacked by settlers. And Taibeh is the only Christian village left on the West Bank. So the war is far-ranging, and it needs to stop for both those obviously in Gaza, those in the West Bank, in Israel as well. Israel deserves peace, and the only way to that peace is by people actually doing something about it and stop just saying empty words, really.
The international community is a phrase that we use often in this story, and it strikes many people that the international community is not doing enough. Too much is ongoing, and people standing by, the international community not doing enough to stop these things. We're talking Washington, we're talking, as you mentioned, across Europe. But basically, you're saying that the international community needs to actually now give an ultimatum to Benjamin Netanyahu to say, look, come on, enough is enough now. Cease.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I don't know how successful, I'll be honest with you, I don't know how successful the international community will be. You know, whenever I've been there and I've had meetings, you know, they will often say that the European Union are weak and the European Union should take more of a lead. And I do believe that. But I do wonder at times how successful they will be. I think the main player, the main international player, of course, is the US. And the US really need to take a very firm stand. More than anyone else, it's the US that I think Israel will listen to. We know that, obviously. But they really do need to take a major stand in this.
Father Mark, we need to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed for joining us here in France 24 and sharing your experience of the Gaza Strip and, of course, particularly of the church that has been hit by the Israelis shelling the Church of the Holy Family in Gaza, the last Catholic church in the Gaza Strip. Canon Mark Madden of the Archdiocese of Liverpool, thank you very much for being with us and giving us your analysis and your thoughts.